Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to Crime Zone.
Authorities in Little Rock, Arkansas say that they have recaptured an escaped inmate this week after he fled from police custody while on his way to a routine court appearance. According to reports, the incident began at approximately 9 a.m. on March 7th when 41-year-old Joel Sanchez Delgado was being escorted into the Pulaski County Courthouse by a police officer. Delgado was supposed to be appearing in court that morning on a number of drug trafficking charges, though was facing several other charges at the time. Rather than walking into the courtroom, the 41-year-old was being pushed in a wheelchair by an officer accompanying him. When he was taken into custody on February 16th on felony residential burglary charges, he claimed that he was injured. He was taken to the hospital and subsequently discharged, though was given a neck brace to wear and apparently claimed that he was having difficulty walking. However, all of these alleged symptoms vanished in an instant that morning as Delgado approached the courthouse doors. After distracting the officer accompanying him by claiming he had lost a shoe, he launched himself out of the wheelchair and hopped over a metal railing to an adjacent staircase, quickly taking off on foot. He then disappeared into the surrounding neighborhood. Despite the initial effectiveness of his brazen escape, it didn't take long for Delgado to be recaptured. A manhunt for him was quickly launched in the surrounding area, and by 11:30 a.m. he was back in custody. According to reports, Delgado was found about 7 miles away from the courthouse. Following Delgado's arrest, authorities announced that he will now be facing a felony escape charge in addition to the numerous other charges he was already facing. In addition to the offenses we already mentioned, Delgado was recently charged with first-degree domestic battery over the alleged shooting of his 31-year-old girlfriend. According to reports, Delgado already had a lengthy criminal record before his arrest in February. At the time of this recording, he remains in police custody.
Representatives from the LAPD said that they are looking for the unknown driver behind a viral vehicle stunt gone wrong this week after they launched a Tesla into the air and crashed, damaging at least 2 other cars in the process. According to reports, the incident took place early on the morning of March 20th, during a meetup for Tesla drivers that had been arranged in the city's Echo Park neighborhood. It began at around 12:10 a.m. when one of the participants, who was driving a rented 2018 Tesla, began speeding up the road on the 1900 block of Baxter Street, which is reportedly known as the steepest road in Los Angeles. The driver continued to pick up speed until they reached an intersection where the road crested, at which point the Tesla was launched into the air. It reportedly sailed nearly 50 feet before crashing head-on into some trash cans, continuing forward until it struck 2 parked cars on the road. The whole thing was filmed by dozens of onlookers, who posted the footage to various social media sites, where it quickly went viral. This was much to the chagrin of some local residents in the area, who were angered by the stunt and its disregard for their safety. According to reports, the rented Tesla was totaled as a result of the crash, and both of the vehicles that were struck during the stunt also sustained significant damage. However, the driver responsible apparently managed to escape the scene without being spotted. As police say, no description of them is currently available. Following the stunt, the LAPD offered a $1,000 reward for anyone able to identify the driver. They say that once caught, the suspect will be facing hit-and-run charges.
Authorities in Dallas are asking for the public's help this week in the case of a missing 30-year-old St. Louis woman who disappeared earlier this month after taking a trip by train. According to reports, 30-year-old Dana Holt was last seen in Dallas at around noon on March 2nd when she was captured on surveillance video after getting off an Amtrak train at Eddie Bernice Johnson Union Station. Dana's journey had started the night before when she boarded the train back in her hometown of St. Louis, Missouri. Police allege that at the time Dana was caught on video at the station in Dallas, an unknown man was also recorded approaching her. He apparently helped her with her bags, and the two walked off of the train platform together. The 30-year-old's family say that they have no idea why Dana would have traveled to Dallas and that they aren't aware of anyone that she would have known there. The same day that Dana arrived in Texas, her mother reportedly received an alarming phone call from her. During the very brief call, the 30-year-old apparently said very little, but allegedly sounded scared and was crying. When Dana's mother asked where she was, she said, quote, "Oh my gosh, he's getting out of the shower, I gotta go." After that, the call was cut off. It was the last time anyone heard from her. Both police and Dana's family members now believe that she is being held by someone against her will, possibly the same unknown man that she had been seen with at the train station in Dallas. A search for her remains active, and police are now asking for members of the public to come forward with any information they might have about her disappearance. Dana is described as about 5 feet 9 inches tall and weighing about 250 pounds. She has blonde hair with dark roots and brown eyes, and also has noticeable tattoos on her neck and chest. She was last seen wearing a black jacket and black pants. Anyone with information concerning Dana's disappearance is encouraged to call the Dallas Police Department's Missing Persons Unit.
Authorities in Ward County, North Dakota say that they have arrested the former roommate of an 18-year-old college student this week, nearly 15 years after she was found murdered in their shared apartment. According to reports, the case began on June 4, 2007, when police in the city of Minot were called to the 4th Street apartment of 18-year-old Anita Knutson. The call had been made by Anita's father, who became concerned after not hearing from his daughter for several days. At the time, Anita had moved out to study at Minot State University. However, she usually kept in constant contact with her family. When police arrived at the scene, Anita's father pointed their attention toward a slashed window screen leading to his daughter's bedroom. When police entered the residence, they found Anita's lifeless body underneath a large housecoat. She had been stabbed multiple times. Despite their best attempts to solve Anita's murder, police apparently came up mostly empty-handed at the time of their initial investigation, and the case eventually went cold. According to reports, even by the 10th anniversary of the killing, investigators still had little evidence and no major suspects. That apparently changed recently, when an undisclosed break in the case blew the investigation wide open. While police say that they will not comment on the nature of this breakthrough at the current time, they indicated that it pointed them in the direction of Anita's former roommate, now 34-year-old Nicole Rice. Police announced Rice's arrest at a press conference on March 16th, saying that she was taken into custody while working as a civilian on the Minot Air Force Base. At the time of this recording, Rice remains in police custody.
Authorities in Fairfax County, Virginia, say that they're searching for both the suspect and the victim of an alleged murder this week after a 35-year-old woman went missing near her home near the beginning of March. According to reports, 35-year-old Hannah Choi was last seen at about 7 a.m. on March 5th at her home on the 5300 block of Jesmond Street in Alexandria. The following day, friends became concerned about Hannah when she missed several appointments. Their worries only grew when they went to her house and there was no answer at the door. It was at that point that they reported her missing to local police. When officers went into Hannah's house to investigate, there was no sign of her. Everything in the home appeared to be in order, with the exception of some bedding that appeared to be missing from one of the bedrooms. Through further interviews with her friends and family, investigators discovered that on the day she was last seen, Hannah had spent significant time in the company of her former boyfriend, 27-year-old Joel Masso Marino. The two of them were also filmed by a surveillance camera together that evening. Like Hannah, police were also unable to locate Marino. On March 7th, the vehicle that was believed to be in Marino's possession was found abandoned in Washington, D.C. When police searched the vehicle, they found evidence inside that suggested that Hannah had been fatally injured prior to her disappearance. They also uncovered additional evidence suggesting that on the day Hannah went missing, Marino spent a significant amount of time in Piscataway Park, located in Prince George's County, Maryland. Based on this information, detectives came to the conclusion that Marino had likely killed Hannah and hidden her body somewhere in the park. A warrant was subsequently obtained for the 27-year-old's arrest on charges of second-degree murder and disposal of a body. At the time of this recording, police have spent several days searching Piscataway Park. However, they have been unable to locate Hannah's remains. However, sadly, investigators say that they are confident that they are dealing with a murder case and that the search will continue. At the same time, authorities are continuing their hunt for Marino, whose whereabouts are unknown. Police say that he might still be in Maryland, but that it's also possible he's since fled the state or even returned to Virginia. The investigation is ongoing.
This week, several police departments across the United States took to social media to warn about the dangers of a new viral TikTok challenge, following several incidents that have already led to injuries and arrests. The trend in question involves a children's toy known as Orbeez, small colorful beads which swell to several times their size when soaked in water to become soft, gelatinous balls. According to reports, the so-called Orbeez challenge started off simply enough, with kids posting clips of themselves to TikTok, doing fun and creative things with the toy. The challenge was even encouraged by Spin Master, the company that makes Orbeez, who released their own play kit for kids based off of the trend. However, videos soon began to emerge with a decidedly less wholesome tone, when users began to upload clips to TikTok of themselves and friends shooting unsuspecting people with Orbeez that had been loaded into splat or airsoft guns. Though Orbeez are usually pretty harmless, police say it's a different story when they're fired out of these guns. In fact, they allege some people are even freezing the colorful balls before shooting them in order to do more damage. This has led to stories of several recent incidents across the country where people have reported being shot by people filming themselves participating in the so-called Orbeez challenge. In a few cases, people have received injuries that resulted in painful welts or bruises, and some have reported being shot in the face. So far, cases have been reported in Georgia, Pennsylvania, California, and Arizona, but appear to be especially prevalent in Florida. Police in Volusia County say that at least 4 arrests have been made there connected to the Orbeez challenge so far. In one case, a woman was targeted as she pushed her baby in a stroller on her driveway, and one 19-year-old man in Deltona was arrested after allegedly shooting both an Amazon delivery driver and a 10-year-old child. The driver was hit in the glasses and neck, while the 10-year-old was hit in the neck and chest while riding his bike. The 19-year-old, who has not been identified by name, has now been charged with 2 counts of battery, as well as shooting into an occupied vehicle and child abuse. In multiple news releases across the country, police have said that they want to discourage anyone that might be thinking of taking part in the Orbeez challenge, emphasizing that they are taking these cases seriously and that they will result in charges.
Authorities in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, say that they have arrested and charged a 34-year-old man this week after he allegedly opened fire on a Broward County transit bus, killing 2 people and wounding several others. According to reports, the incident began at around 3:30 p.m. on March 17th as the bus was heading westbound along the 1100 block of Broward Boulevard. It was at that point that 34-year-old Jamal Myers allegedly pulled out a handgun and began to shoot at several people aboard the vehicle. Hearing shots coming from the back of the bus, the driver made a split-second decision to try and head for the nearby Fort Lauderdale police station. In order to do this, she quickly maneuvered the bus over the median of the road and into oncoming traffic, weaving in and out of cars and avoiding pedestrians along the way. Though she collided with a taxi and an SUV, she managed to make it into the parking lot of the police station. Once there, Myers reportedly exited the bus, where officers were able to take him into custody. When police investigated the aftermath of the attack, they found that 4 people had been shot. One person was already dead by the time help arrived, while another died shortly after arriving at the hospital. They have since been identified as 32-year-old Gregory Campbell Jr. and 41-year-old Danny Colon. The 2 remaining shooting victims are still in the hospital at the time of this recording, while 3 other people were treated at the scene for injuries sustained during the bus crash. According to reports, the motive behind the shooting remains a mystery, although it's said that Myers may have been in an argument with some of the passengers on the bus before the crime took place. The 34-year-old reportedly has a lengthy criminal record for offenses including felony battery, false imprisonment, fraud, burglary, and grand theft. Following this week's shooting, he was charged with 2 counts of murder and attempted murder, weapons possession by a convicted felon, and violating probation. The situation remains under investigation.
This week, authorities in Washington, D.C. announced that they had arrested a man that they say is responsible for a recent series of terrifying attacks targeting homeless men in the local area and in New York City. According to reports, the string of chilling crimes began at around 4 a.m. on March 3rd, when the first known victim was shot and wounded in D.C.'s northeast section. On March 8th, a second man was wounded just before 1:30 a.m. The following day, the attacks escalated significantly when police and firefighters found a dead man inside of a burning tent. Though he was initially thought to have died from fatal burns, an autopsy soon revealed that he had died from multiple stab and gunshot wounds. The 4th incident occurred at around 4:30 a.m. on March 12th in New York City, when the 38-year-old victim was shot in the right arm as he slept not far from the entrance to the Holland Tunnel. The victim began to scream after being shot, and the then unknown suspect took off running. About 90 minutes later, the 5th and final victim was fatally shot on Lafayette Street in Soho. The man's body wasn't found until about 5 p.m. With 2 people dead and 3 others wounded in a similar fashion in such a short span of time, it didn't take long for investigators in both cities to link the crimes to a sole perpetrator. However, the man's identity remained elusive. Thankfully, several images of the suspect were captured on surveillance cameras near the various crime scenes, and these were released to the public in hopes that someone would recognize him. After receiving a number of tips, authorities were able to identify the suspect, 30-year-old Gerald Brevard III. In the early morning hours of March 15th, police in Washington, D.C. managed to track Brevard to a gas station where he was arrested. While the motive behind the crime remains unclear, reports allege that Brevard has a history of mental illness and that this is far from the first time he has been arrested. At the time of this recording, he remains in police custody. That's it for this edition of Crimes of the Week. If you enjoyed our video, don't forget to like and subscribe to Crime Zone for more true crime content like this, making sure to hit the notification bell to stay up to date with our latest releases. Thank you for watching.